Hello everyone. It has been a minute since I have recorded a video. It's been a crazy busy month. It's literally about 40 minutes until I start teaching my online class. Wednesdays are my online teaching day, but I wanted to talk to you today about ways that you can start your lesson to make it exciting and invigorating, and there's ways that you can do it online and offline if you're face-to-face with your students. But for those of you who don't know me, my name is Dr. Hemphill. I'm also known as the Language Lady, and I make YouTube videos for teachers all across the world who teach students who are learning English. If you have not followed me on Instagram, I highly recommend that you do. I share resources from time to time that I don't normally share on here. And while you're at it, please introduce yourself in the comment section below. I love getting to know all of you. So if you could let me know where you're teaching and what grades you teach, that would be wonderful. And I can't wait to meet you. So the most recent video that I recorded was about lesson planning part 1, and it was about how to create language objectives and a content objective, as well as how to decide what standards to focus on. If you haven't watched that video, I highly recommend that you watch that one after this video, or you could watch it before. It really doesn't matter, because at the end we're going to be pulling it all together. So I'm going to link it in the cards as well as in the description below so that you can watch it. So today I'm going to be talking about how to start a lesson. I know for a lot of people this causes a lot of anxiety. I know when I first started teaching, I said to myself, how am I going to start the lesson? I know what I want to teach, but how do I begin? Because you don't just dive right into the actual lesson in itself. So in this video, I'm going to be outlining a couple of different ways that you can start off your lesson. But basically, the beginning of the lesson is the anticipatory set. It is what you're going to do to get your students excited and pique their curiosity. You're giving them just a little bit, but you're not telling them all that you're going to teach them. And one of the ways that I do that I'm actually going to be doing in a couple of minutes is I do a do now. And here's an example of a do now that I do in my lesson. And typically it's something that is related to something we've learned in the past. Or if I'm going to ask something that is new, it's going to be more based on their background information, something that I know that they already have experienced and they know in their life. And if they're in person, what they do is they come in, they get their laptops, they sit down, I do attendance while they're doing this. And it buys me a little bit of time until they're all settled and they're working on that, and I can check in with students, ask them how they're doing, and so forth. When it's online, it's a little different, but it still works kind of similarly. I use the same time to take attendance, and then once they finish the do now, we share it out. And that gets them speaking, it gets them reading. They're also reading each other's responses if you're posting in the chat. And if it's in person, they're reading it out loud and other students are listening to the responses of the other students. Another way to start your lesson is through a warm-up game. And a warm-up game, again, I usually connect it to something that I've taught in the past, is connected something that we did yesterday, and we're just building upon that so that it warms them up and get them excited. Here is a video that I did in the past about getting students to review based on a verb game. And what's really nice is that if you find warm-up games like this that are very generic, you can then change the topic, you can change the concept based on the lesson that you know that you're going to teach. Always, here's the key, is make sure that everything's connected. If you're going to talk about verb conjugations, don't do adjectives for your warm-up game. Make sure that it's connected. And all of these resources that I'm going to be sharing with you, I'm going to be linking in the description below, and I'm going to add more resources that I haven't mentioned also linked in the description below. Another thing that you can do is an attention grabber, and you can do something like this. Okay, class, so I want you to look at this picture and tell me, why do you think the boy is acting this way? What can you infer from this picture? He's probably dizzy from this boring lesson. No, not quite. Look at the picture again. Look in the back of the picture. Look in the back of the room. What is the lady holding? Oh, okay, my bad. Probably had a taste of your nasty coffee that you make? Just saying. So once you've done the do now or the warm up or however you want to get your students thinking about the topic of that day, and I want to also mention that it also gives you an idea of where your students are in terms of this topic. It's a quick formative assessment that gets you an idea of what things you have to review. And if it seems like people are on a roll, then you know that you can make it a little bit more challenging for your students. Okay, so here's the next part, is how you're going to introduce the objective of the day. In this lesson planning series, previously I had mentioned about language objectives and content objectives. When you are sharing them with your students, sometimes the verbiage that we use in our lesson plans sounds more like for an adult. For example, if you have a standard that sounds like this, students will be able to apply comprehension monitoring strategies for informational and technical materials, complex narratives, and expositions by using prior knowledge. Obviously, a lesson objective like this is a little bit too much for an adult. It's not that your students won't understand it, but you have to spend a lot of time breaking that down. And if I'm a student, I'm not really going to feel connected to that. All I have to do is make slight changes to make it student friendly and make it sound like this. I'll improve my reading comprehension by practicing reading skills like finding main idea, finding supporting details, and summarizing text. Notice how it says I will and I can, because I always have my students read the language objective and the content objective, and that way they personalize it from themselves. And not only that, at the end of the lesson, they can ask themselves, did I do this? Do I have any questions? Did I feel like on a scale of 1 through 4, how well did I master that? So this is something really important because you want that reflection piece. You don't want the students just to go on to something else and not feel like they really reflected on what they learned that day. Thank you so much for watching today's video. I'm really curious as to how you incorporate your beginning of your lesson to make it more engaging for your students. And feel free to look at other people's comments below and mention whether you use that strategy or not. It would be really interesting to see what everyone else is using in their schools. If you enjoyed today's video, make sure to hit the like button, and I'll see you next time for more tips, strategies, and resources for the English language learners in your classroom.